into questions, starting with Grant Ramey, Rob Lewis, then Bob Holt.
Mike, when you spend as much time on the defensive end, focusing on the defensive end as you do, how much pride do you take in holding a Kentucky team almost 11 minutes without a made shot the other night from the field?
Well, I think the whole team and the whole staff, everybody would take pride in that. I didn't even realize that stat till after the game. I think someone brought it to our attention that that they went that stretch without making a basket. And honestly, the basket they made was on a defensive breakdown. We had a poor switch. We didn't execute the way we wanted to on the switch. And I think that was the basket that Keon Brooks had when he hit a mid-range jump shot. But, more than anything, Grant, in a game like that, when you look back at the way it really hurt us in the first game, and they obviously offensively, they got anything they wanted, particularly in transition. So to come back and bounce back with a good defensive effort versus an elite offensive team was obviously a good sign for us, and the whole team was proud of it.
Coach, when you scout Arkansas with Note, Amude, and Jason Williams, they got 3 of the top 15 scorers in the SEC. Just how tough are they to defend, and kind of where do you start?
Yeah, it is going to be a real big challenge for us tomorrow. As much as anything, you talked about Note and Amude. They got big guards, and that's what they've done. And when they got off to a little bit of a slow start, they made a couple adjustments. And one of the biggest things they did was go to a big guard lineup. And Note, Amude, and Tony being 3 of those guys that are dynamic scorers. Anytime you have in SEC play 3 guards that are all averaging double figures, and then you throw Jalen Williams in that, it's a real challenge for us. They do a great job of isolating on areas of the floor that they want their players to have the ball to try and take advantage of defensive matchups, and it'll be no different tomorrow. And with that being said, as good as they are on offense in terms of those 3-4 players we spoke about, they're even more dynamic on defense. They're the leading SEC defensive team in conference play, allowing teams to shoot under 40% versus them. So we know it's going to be a very big challenge for us, not only to guard them, but we have to be able to score and be efficient on offense too, versus an elite defensive team.
Yeah, hey, Mike, I cover Arkansas for the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I know you guys play in tough places all the time, Rupp, Texas, all that. But I don't know if you saw the Arkansas-Auburn game from when they knocked off Auburn. But it was a pretty crazy atmosphere. Kind of reminded me of the 90s when Arkansas was at their apex, and they're doing this red out, wearing red and all that. Just wonder what are you expecting, and how tough an atmosphere will that be? And how ready do you think you guys are based on playing a really tough schedule?
Well, I think that's why, Bob, that we do play a difficult schedule, is hopefully to prepare ourselves to be in environments like this and to be in games like this. But without question, we know that playing at Arkansas is as difficult as there is in the country. I mean, we really believe that, we love our fan base, and Thompson Bowling Arena the other night, Tuesday, was electric. We feel we have as good a home court advantage as there is in the country, but we also know what it is to play at Arkansas. We've been there a few times. It's been rabid when we're in there. We have seen the Auburn game, and Arkansas is a heck of a team, one of the top teams in the SEC. And so we know what the atmosphere will be like tomorrow afternoon. Our readiness for it, all you can do is prepare in terms of what we've had up until this point. We've played some tough games in the SEC. We went on the road in non-conference play to try and test ourselves and prepare ourselves for games like this. But you can never, until game time and the ebb and flow of the game, we'll obviously have a much better answer as the game's going on. But we've talked about it. Our guys know what that environment at Bud Walton's going to be like. And now we have to go in and, and hopefully keep the crowd as quiet as possible.
Thanks.
Go next to Ryan Shumpert, Jimmy Himes, and Mike Wilson.
Just how big of a factor has the improved ball movement been in the offense's growth the last few weeks? And who are some of the best players on this team moving without the ball?
Yeah, Ryan, that has been probably the biggest thing on offense. I think a lot of people have talked about that. We've made shots recently and we've shot the ball better, and that's true. But we feel like as a coaching staff and players-wise that it's because of the ball movement, because of the player movement, the crisp passing of the basketball. And a couple things that probably go unnoticed is our post players' ability to connect the offense, whether it's John Fulkerson or Urosh or now Jonas playing more, Brandon Huntley when Josiah is at the 4 spot. Those guys do a really good job of keeping that offense moving on the perimeter, flashing out to the perimeter and, keeping the ball moving. Then from a standpoint of cutting without the basketball, I think everybody's grown in that area, but without a doubt, the one guy that we use as an example when we talk about watch film, show the guys is Santi. The way Santi cuts and moves without the basketball continually is really beneficial for our offense. And he does it, and it snowballs to the other guys. It really starts to, help them. They watch him in film, and coach uses him as an example. So I think all our guards are doing a better job moving without the basketball. We're much less of standing and watching, and now we're cutting and moving. And it's been a real strong impact for our offense.
Mike, you touched on him earlier, but JD Notae, what makes him such a prolific scorer?
That he can score all levels, and that he's a really physical guard that, as well as anybody in the country, knows how to score through contact, whether it's through a guard that's guarding him, whether that is taking the ball to the paint with a post player. He knows how to draw contact, get his body into the post. He's extremely dynamic, Jimmy, in transition. He can get to the paint or pushes the ball to the paint very aggressively. So there's really no matchup that you can say, oh, we can take advantage. We can put a bigger guy on him, or, hey, maybe a smaller guy like Zakai or Kennedy can get underneath him. He really takes away any of those advantages because of his dynamic offensive game. So we know it's going to be a great challenge. And if a guy like Zakai or Kennedy or Santi are guarding him, he'll try and take them inside. If he gets a big on a switch on the perimeter, he will drive the basketball and see if he can get into their body. And any crack that he has in transition, he's going to take advantage of. So he's one of those guys that we talk about the minute the rebound, the minute they secure the basketball, meaning Arkansas, we have to be in total focus to be able to stop him, because there's at no point does he have a weakness in terms of his ability to go score the basketball or get a shot off.
Yeah, Mike, with the way that John's played, I guess probably the past 2 weeks or so, how much stability and consistency has that give you guys, not only in the post, but just in the way the offense and defense are working right now?
Yeah, it's so big for us, Mike, because we all know his veteran status as a 6th-year guy, but for him to be able to play the way he's playing and bounce back from a time that obviously he was struggling a little bit offensively is really big, because we think not only is he playing better right now, but we're hopeful that his best basketball is still to come in the last 2 weeks of the season and into the SEC tournament. On the defensive side of the ball, he's always been someone that we have really counted on scouting report wise to be able to execute our defensive game plan. He's always been very solid with that. So him getting back to that form is, as much as anything, really important to this ball club. And if you look at the other night playing Kentucky, something that wasn't probably talked about as much was when we went with the lineup of Jonas and John in the game together, to be able to play John Fulkerson at the 4 defensively and allowing him to switch onto guards and execute our game plan with some of our switching schemes. That was really important, because to this point in the season, Josiah has been the main guy that we've had to count on to do that. And when he has to play 36, 37, 38 minutes and do that continually, from playing on the wing, then going to the 4 spot, switching onto the other team's 4-man and playing in the post physically, defensively, to have John be able to do that the other night versus Keon Brooks and switch on to guards and guard Jacob Toppin and switch on to Kentucky's guards, that was big. And it doesn't have to be for the entire game, but if he can do it in spells and minutes at a time, it really helps us. And then you throw into the fact that Josiah has been in foul trouble, 2 of the last 3 games. And so him to be able to do that brings a lot back to our team. And during this stretch, this last 7-8 game stretch, that's been big. So his offensive pace of play, his aggressiveness, getting back to being himself, and then defensively being able to execute what we want to do has been a big positive for us.
We'll go Ben McKee, then Reese.
Mike, just how much have you all emphasized getting or turning the page to Saturday after Tuesday night's big win and not really having time to dwell on how big of a win that was and shifting the focus? And how do you think the guys have done with handling that?
Yeah, the page was turned in the locker room right after the game, to be totally honest with you. We immediately in the locker room after the win Tuesday night, we started talking about the challenge and what faces us heading into Bud Walton on Saturday. So I don't think there's any hangover whatsoever in terms of thinking about the Kentucky game and thinking about what a big win that was. And it was a big win, just like they all are right now, to be honest. Every game right now, this time of year, late February, every conference game is as big as they get. So we started talking about it right after. We had an opportunity Wednesday, just the way the schedule breaks down, was a day off for the guys, is what they had. And we immediately got right on to Arkansas when we got into the film room yesterday, Thursday, and practice, and we'll do the same today. So I don't think that changes how difficult things will be when we head to Fayetteville tomorrow. But from a standpoint of moving on and preparing and understanding the importance of this and understanding that the Kentucky game was one game and that it ended Tuesday night, I don't think there's any confusion of that whatsoever.
Mike, you talked about Jonas Adu a little bit in this press conference. He played 18 minutes against Kentucky. What have you seen from him to earn more of those minutes in his development?
Jonas has been doing it every day in practice, and he went through some things early in the year as well documented in terms of some injuries and some physical things that held him back and made it tougher for him to get opportunities, in the games. And, it's not only opportunities in the games. We're a fairly deep ball club. We have a lot of guys. And when you're in practice and you have 4, 5, 6 post players, I mean, those guys all want to be in practice. If you came to our practices, they're as competitive as anything, not wanting to be subbed out during practice. So Jonas had to earn his minutes in practice, and he's done that. And what Jonas gives us is a little bit different than what Urosh gives us, what John gives us. And Jonas was playing good basketball a month ago in practice. He really was. But what this team needed was a physical presence, and that's what Urosh provided. Right now, what Jonas has given us the last few games is length, rim protection, which Urosh doesn't give us as much. He gives it to us in a different way. So we've been able to call on that. And now also, obviously, Olivier goes down. So you lose a starter in the front court. So naturally, whoever is playing and being productive in practice is going to get more opportunity. There's more opportunity to get those reps in practice. And what Jonas has done, and all credit to him, is he's taken full advantage of it. So, Jonas, we're really proud of him. We're really excited for him. He knows he's working his tail off to keep getting better and better. But his ability to give us some rim protection and length, allow us to play a little bit more zone possessions here and there. And we've had now 2 of the last 3 games, a lineup, albeit very few possessions, where we've had Urosh and Jonas on the floor at the same time. That's good size. I mean, that's pretty good length out there, and we'll see how that keeps going moving forward.
Finish up with Bob Holt, then Grant and Rob.
Mike, you guys, I think I got this right. I think you guys have won 8 of 9. Your only loss at Kentucky. Arkansas has won 10 of 11. Their only loss at Alabama. Just how well do you think both teams are playing, and just how high level of a game do you think this will be on Saturday?
Well, I mean, from a record standpoint and watching Arkansas on film, and our guys know it, our coaching staff knows it, they're as hot as anybody in the country, Bob. I mean, they are really clicking on all cylinders on both sides of the ball. We've alluded to it before, how well and how many weapons they have on offense. This is an elite defensive team in Arkansas. So, I mean, there's no team playing any better than they are in the country, and definitely not in the SEC. And then on our side, we also feel like we're playing some of our best basketball. So, whether it's the streak and winning 8 of 9 games or winning 8 SEC games in a row, it's more than that sometimes, because the game we lost to Kentucky, I mean, we weren't even close. I mean, we absolutely got ran out of the building. So, but we feel like the team is coming together and we're playing some of our best basketball in late February, mid-February. Arkansas has been doing it for about 6 weeks now. They've been playing their best basketball. So it has all the makings to be a high-level basketball game. But every game is a different identity. Every game takes on its own unique challenges and ebb and flow. So we'll see what happens going in tomorrow. But again, you asked and you brought it up. The first question was about Bud Walton Arena and the atmosphere in there. And I mean, the home court that Arkansas has and what their crowd can mean to their team is huge. And we've seen it. We've seen it watching tape, and we've been in that building, as we alluded to before, just like it is for us when we're here in Thompson Bowling. So you hope it's a very high level game, and but we'll just have to see how it goes tomorrow and all the ways that, you know, the unique things that the game will bring.
Mike, with Kennedy and Zakai and Santi, you guys have 3 of the top 9 steals per game individual players in the league. Is that, how much of that is player skill? How much of it is defensive scheme? How much of it is just effort?
Yeah, great point, Grant. Probably a little bit of all 3 things. I think when you think about those 3 guys, I don't know if we thought that, you know, can't remember the exact game, but one game, you know, Kennedy and Zakai had 10 steals between them. The other night, I think we forced 14 turnovers and 9 of them were on steals. And, you know, when we look at our defense, there's areas that we know we need to be better and that we're still constantly looking to improve. And we're not satisfied with the field goal percentage defense that we have in SEC play. I mean, teams are shooting above 40% for us. And, you know, that's not meeting our goals defensively. We want that to be lower. But we also didn't realize and could not have predicted and didn't predict as a coaching staff that we would be as efficient as we were with our steal percentage and continuing in SEC play to basically force 16 turnovers a game, 17 turnovers a game on the season. And that's an area probably that's the highest we've been over the last 4 or 5 years in terms of forcing turnovers. And steals have been a really big part of it. So it's kind of become a little bit of the identity of this team between those 3 guys, Santi, Kennedy, and Zakai, being very dynamic with steals and particularly some late game steals, particularly Zakai and Kennedy in particular. So, you know, I think it's kind of happened on its own, but they know their job defensively is to be what we call the head of the snake, and they got to provide pressure and make it a little bit of a challenge for the other team to get into their offense. And when the time is right, provide full court pressure. And now you'd flip the page and you'd say that's all effort based for them, because, you know, we can put schemes in and we can say, hey, we need you to do this, and this is our expectation or your responsibility. But their effort and their tenacity and their heart has been what has allowed them to be really effective with statistically coming up with big steals and having a good number of them.
Coach, you touched on this a little bit when you're talking about, you know, winning 8 of 9 and playing at this high of a level, but how much fun is it as a coach when every game means this much in the last 3 weeks? I mean, you're tied for second in the SEC, you're playing for conference positioning, you're playing for seeding, and at the same time, you're leaning on 2 freshmen in Zakai and Kennedy to do as much as they do. I mean, is that odd, and how much of the veterans play into that? That's a convoluted question, but there's a lot going on every week, and you got 2 young kids that are right in the middle of it.
Yeah, without a doubt, Rob. And I think the thing is, everybody lives to play for March. That's the bottom line. That's the most exciting time of college basketball season. So to be in a position where you can actually talk about seeding, or you can talk about, hey, potentially being in play to win an SEC championship. Of course, that's what all coaches want. That's what all teams want. I think the unique thing about this team is that here we are, February 15th, we play Kentucky, and a player like Jonas Adu gets to emerge a little bit. You talk about freshmen, you know, Zakai being a freshman, Kennedy being a freshman. Maybe they haven't played their best basketball yet, and they're playing pretty well. So they know, and the coach's expectation on them is to be a lot better on both sides of the ball. And we're going to go work on that here in the next 30 minutes when we start practice, is areas to improve. So I think that is really exciting when you talk about freshmen, not only guys that have been playing most of the season in terms of Zakai and Kennedy, but then you get a guy like Jonas who really hasn't played a lot and we feel like could be better. So who knows what kind of impact he could make in the next 2 weeks heading to Tampa and then heading into postseason. So yes, very exciting. There is a great unknown about it, but anytime you're playing for high stakes, late February, early March, I mean, you know, you wish it could always be like that, without a doubt.
All right. Thanks, Mike. We'll have John in just a moment.
Thanks, Coach.